Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this New York Music Month talk. My name is Shira Gans, and I'm the Senior Executive Director of Policy and Programs at the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. I'm also the person who created New York Music Month and curates it every year. For those of you, this is your first Music Month event. New York Music Month is New York City's official music festival. We partner with industry partners across the whole value chain of music, as well as arts organizations, to create a lineup of free talks and performances that address pressing issues in the industry and give a platform to emerging artists so they can do showcases. So today I don't know if excited is the right word, but I think today is a very important talk. And in curating the lineup for this year, in my role in local government, I really wanted to use this platform to have honest conversations about some of the challenges we're facing at this moment, both as citizens, but particularly as artists, and how those challenges affect our ability to express ourselves. So I thought ARC was an amazing partner to have this conversation with, since they've been doing this important work for a very long time in a way that I think, fortunately, we haven't had to address, but now we might have to. So I want to hand it over to Julie Trébault, who is going to be moderating a conversation with some amazing artists from around the world who've grappled with these challenges. And I'm excited to learn from all of them today. So I hope to see you guys around in June, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Shira. Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to our event, Music Freedom and Global Lessons to Confront National Challenges. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, afternoon, or morning, really depending on where you're joining from. So first, I would like to express my gratitude to Shira for a brief remark, but also to the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment in New York City and everyone in New York Music Month for the support of this event. So as Shira mentioned, my name is Julie Trébault. I'm the Executive Director at Artists at Risk Connection, ARC, and I will be your moderator for today's event. So just a few words about ARC. ARC is an international organization whose mission is to defend and defend and advance the right to artistic freedom, providing practical resources and support for artists and cultural workers at risk around the world. So to date, we have supported over 2,000 coming from 61 countries to receive timely and effective support, some of who are on Zoom with us today. So before I provide opening remark and introduce our panelists, I will quickly read our code of conduct. So we aim to have our event to be stress-free spaces for our panelists and attendees. Racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, and any other forms of disrespect, harassment, hate speech, and intimidation will not be tolerated. If your behavior is rude, disruptive, or offensive in any way, we retain the right to remove you from the meeting. We appreciate you respecting and abiding by this code of conduct. Thank you so much. And now with that out of the way, let me a bit contextualize our event. So throughout our history at ARC, we have worked with creatives and partners to weather numerous crises, from coup and war to clampdowns on protests, cancellation of exhibition, and much more. Whether detentions and legal persecution or online harassment and institutional censorship, attacks on the right of artists and cultural workers know no bounds. Now, in 2025, affront on artistic freedom and other fundamental freedom in the US are occurring at an unprecedented scale, and all in broad daylight. We must remember that these threats are not isolated and are intimately intertwined with global backlisting and devastation. Moreover, while such aggressions are perhaps less familiar from some in the States, efforts to silence and control speech, art, and culture have long been common weapons in the arsenal of authoritarianism. In organizing this event, we bring together the perspective of creators who have seen these aggressions develop abroad and domestically to inform a candid discussion on artistic freedom. Why are artists at risk? And what strategies can make us more resilient? With this context in mind, and to ensure we have enough time to fully discuss the driving themes of this conversation, I will very briefly introduce our panelists. Their full bios are available on the event and registration pages, and my colleague will put the link. And I, of course, invite panelists to share more about themselves and their background when they get our conversation underway. So I am thrilled to be joined by a really, truly amazing and talented group of artists. Siddique Ahmed, DJ Switch, David Dehomney, and Nadine El Roubi. So let's start with you, Siddique. Siddique Ahmed is the founding member of Kabul Dreams, Afghanistan's first rock band. Siddique is well versed in numerous instruments, including keyboard, bass guitar, violin, and the rubab. He is a skilled music producer who has collaborated with numerous prominent and emerging Afghan artists. Siddique's music experience also translates to the big screen, having composed pieces for several films. Let me move on to you, Switch. DJ Switch is a Nigerian DJ, songwriter, and musician originally from Enugu State and who grew up in Warri, Delta State in Nigeria. In 2016, she was awarded the City People Music Award and Top Ninja Music Award for Best DJ and was named Culture Icon in 2021. Switch is also an activist and is working to establish a non-for-profit called Renovate Nigeria, which will focus on providing a platform for socially and politically conscientious creatives. Then let me move to David. David Dehomney is a Cuban musician and multidisciplinary artist. His artistic career began in the city of Alamar as part of the Omni Zona Franca collective. His music blends art rock, new age, and experimental music, strongly influenced by hip-hop, reggae, and electronic music. Besides his artistic work, David has participated in numerous lectures and festivals and has produced several cultural events for independent Cuban artists, promoting art as a media for social change. Last but not least, Nadine El Roubi is a Sudanese artist who first made a mark on the music scene in 2020 with her explosive lifestyle, female. Since then, she has amassed millions of streams, drawing in listeners with her unique blend of neo soul and hip hop. With cosigns from industry heavyweight like SDA, A Tribe Called Quest, Jerobi White, and recognition from Rolling Stone, Nadine is a breakthrough artist poised to leave a lasting impact on the Swana region and global music scenes. So thank you first to all our speakers for making time to be here today and share their invaluable insight on this subject. And I feel in an ever-evolving and complicated world, I feel this discussion is as timely as ever. And during the conversation, I would like, should attendees have any question, really feel free to write them in using the Q&A feature that you can see on the bottom of your screen, And while I cannot guarantee we will have time to respond to all your questions, we'll try our best to leave space at the end of this discussion for the Q&A. And then without further ado, let's start the conversation. So David, Siddique, Switch, and Nadine, my first question for you is in many ways, the idea of artists at risk can be unfamiliar to a general audience. In kind of your own words, why are artists at risk and why it is important that this conversation form part of the New York Music Month's entertainment and conversation? Why are we here?
I think I could just shoot first. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. Nadine, I'm actually meeting you today virtually. I had a chance to meet Siddique and David last week, I believe. So um, the way I see it is our artists they're truth tellers, right? And we know the truth is uncomfortable, especially in authoritarian and dictatorial like societies, right? And so when you have an artist who, and by the way, not just for social issues, because an artist can make an artistic body of work that is for entertainment purposes, but they typically stick to the truth of their experience, either in a particular type of lifestyle, who they are, what they represent, or what's going on in their societies. And so for society like authoritarian societies, dictatorial societies that injustice is runs rampant and there's a crackdown on freedom of speech and human rights violations. Artists who tend to address those issues naturally would face persecution, naturally would face harassment, right? Even censorship, right? I remember some years back, well, a lot of years back, but I don't want to give my age on here, but a lot of years back, I had a band as well called The Pulse, and we had sang a song. The song was titled Pray Saute. And saute is a pidgin English slang that means continuously, pray continuously. And Nigeria is a very religious country, right? And so the song basically was addressing the issues in Nigeria, right? The lack of electricity, bad roads, bad governance, and all that stuff. But we delivered that work in sort of like a comical way, right? And almost like a mockery, in a sense that all you do is pray about issues that we have the power to fix, right? And that song became so huge that we were blown away when we got a request that we could feature Busta Rhymes on it. So we did a remix of that song, and the government was pretty pissed off about that song, and we were censored for it. So just to give you a sense of what I'm trying to talk about, and in the worst case scenarios, artists often get exiled for speaking the truth through their work. So that's just a say it in short. But why it's important that it's featured in the New York Music Month, I'd say it's essential because, like I said earlier, it reminds us that music is not just for entertainment, right? We can look at it, music or art in general. We can look at it as a place for refuge. We can look at it as a space for resistance. We can look at it as a place to tell stories, radical storytelling. So I'm grateful to this platform for spotlighting us and art in general, the fight for justice, which we use art for, and especially in a city like New York that is very diverse, and encourages hearing from global voices.
Thank you, Switch.
That's awesome. I would love to add to that if that's okay. First of all, hi everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Nadine El Roubi. And thank you, Julie, so much for putting this together, and Shira as well, for your remarks earlier. I agree, yeah, with everything that Switch said, and I just wanted to add as well, in terms of how the risk manifests itself with artists who are very intent on telling the truth and honoring their experiences and honoring the experiences of those around them, whether within the local community of the diaspora, or, our brothers and sisters in places like Sudan and Palestine and Congo and such. Um, the way that it manifests itself as well is not even being able to create your art. I mean, we know of artists who will say the things they want to say and, either be censored and exiled as a consequence. But then there's instances where you literally cannot even travel to perform your work anymore. I know personally of many people who, I mean, a friend of mine just the other day was pulled at the airport and questioned heavily And a lot of his art revolves around speaking the truth and, being very present on social media and very honest and refusing to censor himself. And then, you get pulled aside for a random check and interrogated for 3 hours at the airport here in New York. Um, Artists who had to cancel shows, who like, maybe live in Canada and had to cancel a bunch of shows and a tour in the States because they're afraid of the same thing happening to them. So it's like it manifests itself in so many different ways and in ways that you often won't even hear about, because once something like that happens, you fear the consequences of sharing your experiences even further online. So yeah, that really freaked me out when he was like, yeah, I was interrogated for 3 hours. And it's like, so yeah, you can't even, I mean, you can, but there will be consequences of being honest. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
I would like to add some as well, if you don't mind. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you, Nadine. We met before with Switch and David. Thank you, Julia, for organizing this, and I'm honored to be here, part of this group. A very, very important topic that we're discussing today. I think Switch and Nadine put it very well, like why artists are at risk and kind of a little bit background. But I just want to add that this is like we should know that this is nothing new, right? So historically, all through time, artists have always been um, in the kind of risk group because one, they have a voice and they are bold and they stand up and kind of raise their voices, but also they tend to be the voice of others, right? So this has always been the case, and I think this continues to be the case for artists throughout the world. And why it is important now, I think we are seeing kind of the rise of authoritarianism everywhere in the world. And they don't like artists because they are a threat, because artists are a threat to them. So that's another important uh, thing to think about. Um, Raising voices can be a threat to the group who was afraid of losing their power. So it's all about kind of power dynamics in that way. And in Afghanistan, it's a little bit of a even extreme example, if I could say that, because like we're in a situation where music is completely banned in any form or shape. So it doesn't matter even if it's traditional music or any type of music. So it's not about like the music or art in general having a message that is threatening to the group who is ruling the country, but it's just any form of art. Even if you're singing like a very simple love song, you're not allowed to do that. So with that, and even at the time when they were not in power, our group was like threatened by people who were not part of the government necessarily, but they were powerful people. And that's the reason why we kind of had to leave the country, because it was not safe for us anymore. So I think all of us in this group, we have some firsthand experience of that we want to share with people here who are into the arts, and kind of the importance of that and how we can navigate through this time, basically. So thank you. You're on mute, David.
David, we cannot hear you.
Hello, yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's an honor, and this is a big opportunity for us because I grew up in a dictatorship. The majority of the artists like me, because we make our art. Sometimes it's like love songs or whatever, but when we are involved in change the society, and we focus on human rights and open spaces, we begin problems with governments and security of state and all that. And these guys have the media, have the promotion, have everything, have the army, have all, and we are we are alone between us, alone. So this opportunity, this conversation, these institutions, you help a lot, because we give us opportunity for development our art, our prohibited art in our countries. And when we feel alone, but we have hope for change, you appear in the middle of the situation and you say, okay, you have resources for continue making art, or you have opportunities like that for expose the reality of the independent art in your country. Because in my country, the problem is not the art, it's independent art. We have one party, communism party, just one, and we have a lot of institutions like a Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Medicine, different ministries. So I focus on art. The Ministry of Art have a meeting with the party, with the Communist Party, one time a week and one time a month. And if you want to make art, you need to present first a project, and the Communist Party look that and see okay or not. So we don't have the real possibility of making inspiration art at moment when that born in our heart. So the only opportunity we have for now is this opportunity for a change, for finding new friends around the world, for connect and develop our art. So for now, it's a pleasure, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, David, and thank you, sweet Nadine and Siddique, for chiming in this first question. I think you kind of really, like, all of you in several aspects, really highlight, the role of artists in our society, and to, like, push boundaries, and song and music is such a powerful tool, I have to say. It really transcends boundaries. Music speak to the soul, you don't need per se to understand the lyrics to feel touched and to feel vibrant, like moved by the art. So I think I really appreciate you chiming in here and sharing your thoughts. I think Nadine, you mentioned a bit, switching from different languages. The impact that artists are, like, the impact of the current US administration on artistic freedom, on cultural exchange, and on artists, with the example of your friends. And I think I want to kind of bring you a bit of, like, in this kind of past, so understanding from your perspective of having faced a harsh situation in a repressive environment for a lot of you. So what we're seeing is, like, from getting mobility and exchange programs to the most recently issuing a travel ban that happened last week, the action of this administration show really a blatant disregard for international exchange, humanitarianism, and multilateralism. So amid of the spread of this heightened isolationist mentality nationwide, I want to understand what role can artists here in the US, and you part of this, ecosystem and fabric of, the art in the US. And so what role can artists and music play in kind of connecting with others and countering the backlisting we see today? And anyone who's ready can go with my question.
I think it's thank you for that. I think it's an interesting question because when we ask what power do artists have to change things and to connect people, I believe it's the same power that artists have always had, which is, like everybody here has mentioned so eloquently, is, speak the truth, express yourself, regardless of whatever it is you're talking about, whether you are touching directly on politics or religion, or whether you are just expressing human emotion like love and compassion and togetherness through your music, whatever it is that you're conveying, it's always going to connect people and it's always going to bring people closer to the truth and closer to a higher frequency, right? So that's what artists have always been doing, what we'll always do. When it comes to changing things, however, I mean, I think everybody remembers a petition that went around, Artists for Palestine. I forget the exact words, so forgive me if I'm butchering it, but there was a huge petition that went around, or Artists for Humanity or something. And so many artists, from small independent artists to big, huge artists signed to major labels, signed that. And we're still seeing the genocide that is occurring take place so blatantly and so unapologetically for the world to see. Um, so it's like when we ask questions like what role do artists play in changing things? I don't know if we have the systemic power to change things. It's down to the governments and the offices and the people who, sign the papers and press the buttons, who literally control the agenda of the world. I think it's on them to change things in terms of like an institutional sense and a systemic sense. Um, and it's really, and I don't know, I can't speak for everyone for this at all, but for me personally, it's very frustrating and it's like it feels sad that the responsibility of change falls on the artist when we don't exist in a framework or infrastructure that allows for that change to happen, So it kind of feels almost like we're screaming into a void. We can write all the songs we want, paint all the murals we want, and it might touch the hearts of people and influence them to, take part in activism more. But is it going to actually change the way things are? That's on the people who are creating the problems. It's on us to point them out, and it's on the people who create the problems to change them. That's how I feel.
Can I jump in there? So I see what you're saying, Nadine, and I get it, right? And I say this with the utmost respect because there was a time I felt just like that. Like, I mean, what can we do? Like, I'm sick of doing this thing. I'm sick of talking. But I think what's really important to always remember, and yeah, it's okay to take that moment away so that you don't crash and burn, but we're forgetting the power and the influence, the artist has. We're forget and then take for example, I'm pretty much like a small artist, that's how I see, and that's just a fact, right? It's not me putting myself down, but they're artists that are like way bigger, right? A-listers and all that stuff, right? And people like that, when they say something, when they put lyrics into music, when they even put out a tweet, right? They've probably got like 20, 30 million followers who will do what they've said. Now, while I don't particularly subscribe to this robotic mindset of like, yeah, whatever you say, because it's a double-edged sword. It also doesn't encourage personal like growth or research or investments, like whatever you say, but we cannot negate like the influence of the artist, right? And like the border like what's going on, that Julie talked about. We know that music crosses borders, right? Whether it's music, whether it's a cartoonist's drawing, like we know it crosses borders. And I'm talking about, now more than ever, where like we know around the world, borders, people are trying to close their borders, or they've closed their borders, or they're banning countries, whether literally or ideologically, music like crosses borders. And so I think the artist's job is to keep that border or that door open. At least that's the best we can do. And then, continue to promote those types of issues, address those types of issues, and which will like reignite the humanity in the people you're referring to, and foster empathy, right? And push them to act. Because you're right? The people that can change stuff are in the government. The people that can make them change stuff or get them out of the way, so we put people there that can actually change stuff, are the people. But we play, or artists in general, play a major part in igniting that fire, if that makes sense.
I would like to add something as well. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. I totally agree with Nadine and Switch. On the one hand, as artists, we are not able to make a direct impact in change, right? So, like you rightfully said, Nadine, that we're not artists are not the people that actually make the change in the higher level, if you will, right? But at the same time, uh, we kind of have the responsibility to guide, in a way, guide the people towards the right direction, towards the truth that we've been talking about, right? So I want to say that it's not like insignificant in the sense that it's not directly changing, but it can, and it always does, result in change. I mean, one like simple example is like if the artists are not continue to speak the truth and to stand up for other people, stand up for those people who don't have rights. Like in our context, standing up for women is a big and important issue because in Afghanistan, women right now are not considered humans. Like literally, they don't have any rights. They are not able to go to schools. Um, I mean, I think everyone knows about this by now, but I want to mention that. And if artists are not standing up for them and like I think they're missing out on a big responsibility as artists. So does that like give the woman rights and then once we do like songs tomorrow the woman will be free? That's not how it works. Yes, we all know that. But at the same time, we continue to do that. Uh, and we continue to be their voices and kind of raise awareness because if we don't, eventually those in power will kind of make that as a public opinion and say, this is how it is. This is life, you know. So it's always like artists are at the same time like being other people's voices, but also disruptors in the sense that they actually can stand up for those who are oppressed. And yes, it doesn't make a direct change or impact, but it always has an indirect impact. So we should not think that that's not, and I don't mean that you said it's insignificant. I know you know it's significant, but I want to emphasize that it's very significant, especially in times like this, and it's like kind of a very important responsibility on all of us, to be honest, to continue to do this. And to your main question, Julie, like what should artists do? I think to just continue doing the work that they're doing and to think of this as a responsibility, as a social responsibility, more than anything, and kind of working with each other. Like you rightfully said, like music and art are have no boundaries, right? So that means working collaboratively with other artists from other parts of the world. Within, I mean, the US itself is so big. There's so many um, opportunities to work together with other artists and the diversity and everything. So just to continue to do that work and not be discouraged by thinking that their role is not important or they are helpless or anything like that. So continuing to do that work, I think, is probably the message I would like to give everyone.
Absolutely. I just want to jump in and say I agree with both of you, like 100%. And forgive me if I misspoke. In no way was I trying to like belittle the role of the artist in influencing change at all. No, I completely agree. Even, whether it's like Rihanna, for example, which is like might seem like a silly example, but it actually changed so much in the Sudanese revolution back in 2019 when Matar, who was both an artist and very heavily within the artistic scene in Sudan, and also an activist and revolutionary, was tragically um, murdered. Everybody changed their profile picture on Instagram to his favorite color, which we now call the Matar blue. And when Rihanna changed her picture to that color as well, it literally changed the course of the entire revolution. So 1,000% artists have so much power, whether it's in their daily actions, whether it's like what they're expressing in their work. So I agree with that 100%, and I believe it is our responsibility to continue to do so, and that even if you can't change things on a systemic level, if you're influencing the mind of like even one person, that creates a butterfly effect and a domino effect that can change things for generations to come. But in terms of like and obviously we know this, but in terms of like systemic change, I always really try to put pressure on the people in power, because it's so easy to use artists or society as pawns or scapegoats for major things in the world not changing, when it's like, the responsibility of those creating the problems. But yeah, I agree with you both.
I have a history. I have a history of my artists, my friends in Cuba, because the politicians, that guys, make a new law. We have a exemplar, 349, a number. This is a law. In this law, the police have a right for go to your home, take your space, put you in prison, your technology, all you have is gone. If you criticize the leaders of the system, and the politicians make a law for that, and a group of artists create a protest. But normally, it's in Cuba. It's just I know it's different in all countries, but in Cuba, the people in the street fear be involved in directly political opposition against the government, because the opposition, the political opposition directly, is like the government have at least like a terrorist. You can go for too many years of prison, you can die. So the people feel fear for being involved directly on that expression. But when our friends, the artists, go to the front, to the cultural, the Ministry of Culture, and we say we don't have law for because it's a violation of our expression, our human rights. But we made that with art, and the people, normal people, the people fear being involved with directly opposition. But with the artists, the people say, okay, this is art, this is people talking, making music, it is different vibe, and it's a strong fight. It's a strong fight, and it's I am proud, because I was a part. We can change one law in Cuba. Did that decree 349? That decree, we make a big protest, and this protest growing and growing and growing and growing, and we finish with all Cuba in the street and government and repression and protest. But we begin with art, with something soft, because in the mind of the dictatorships, that people in his mind don't want to change anything. These people don't want to change anything. Don't want to listen new ideas. An artist have a new ideas. And sometimes when the politicians or the TV or radio stations say the new law, no discussion, everybody safe. in countries like mine, no, everybody say, okay, new law, we don't have nothing to do because the government take a decision whatever they want. They have a power. I got you. They have a power for change the law whatever they want, and it's difficult and it's frustrating for us to change that because we pass to artists to the directly to political opposition. We can go to jail. We can go to we can die for that, and it's frustrated. But I am part of the movement, so we can change one law. It's not enough, of course, because it's just one law. But wow, we can do it. We can do it. But this is the opportunity. If we connect, if some artists outside the world say, oh, yeah, some people in Iran, or some people in Cuba, or some people in France, or some people are in danger, and we be a part of that, and we have a solidarity. I think it's the big possibility.
Thank you, David.
Yes.
I'm kind of moving along to kind of coming back here to the US. I wanted like, you know, we have witnessed, you know, since January, a kind of top-down imposition of ideological control on arts institution and funding mechanism, really resulting in direct attacks on creative autonomy and really silencing of critical and underrepresented voices. I want to hear from you and your perspective on really kind of how have this action, how have you lived the past 3 months, like 4 months and a half, and how have this kind of action impacted the communities or the group you belong to now?
I can provide a like real life example if I can. I think everyone is impacted because of all the funding cuts specifically for arts, and the artist communities are starting to suffer and kind of see real impact, like direct impact of this. I'm not gonna go into the details of why this is happening. I think we all know. I was just talking about how the those in power or the authoritarians, they fear artists because the artists are those who will disrupt the system, and they will by just like raising voices of people that are oppressed, right? So we all know this, and that's why they're doing this. I mean, that's the reason, because they fear, right? It's all comes from fear. But the example I wanted to share was like I was performing. As of recently, I'm performing traditional Afghan music in an attempt to kind of um, maintain the integrity of the Afghan traditional music, as I feel responsible uh, to kind of continue the legacy of our traditional music. So I was performing at an event in San Francisco International Arts Festival. It's a rather smaller festival, but it happens in San Francisco every year. They bring artists from all over the place, including different parts of the US, but also internationally. And I had a spot that I shared with a very nice Indian group as well. So we were performing, and the week of the when the festival started, they had like their budget cut off for from the grant that they had received, or they were supposed to receive. And it was like a direct impact to them. So they sent us an email. Fortunately enough, they were still able to. I mean, imagine that all the artists who are flying in internationally. I mean, I was local, so it wasn't a big deal for me. But like all the artists who were flying in internationally were already here because it's the week of the festival, and that's when they announced that your grant is no longer going to be given to you. Fortunately enough, they were able to still continue with the festival, and so this is like how I just wanted to share this example because it happened to me recently. But yeah, this is what the impact is, and I think this is probably a very small scale example, but we're talking like very large scale example. It will continue to be like this, I think. And the narrative that the organizers of the festival have been putting out since then has been very impressive, and I wanted to share that as well because I think it's important in this context. They are saying that we have to find other ways to continue to do this. It doesn't mean we're going to stop, right? So, and that's what they did. Like the festival went on for the whole week. All the artists performed. Everyone was paid. Like they still continue to do that. So the idea is like if these grants are being cut off from the federal government, there's other ways to find resources to continue to do art. And there are people who will support. It's going to be a big change, obviously, but it shouldn't stop anyone. So I wanted to share that. I think that that's also like a message of hope. But that's one example that I could directly share. Thank you.
If anyone's not chiming in, I can move to a next question. How do you feel about that? I understand also. Um, so I would like to, and I think our audience also will love to hear, like, there's something that we have touched upon during our kind of speaker call. It's kind of the idea of truth and how narratives are co-opted to demonize groups or pervert reality to serve really powerful interests. At the same time, historically, music has spoken truth to power, serving as a symbol of counterculture and a medium to express dissent. Are you feeling a push towards more engaged music in your artistic practice, or seeing that shift among your contemporaries? And what has your relationship been with this kind of artistry?
It's actually interesting because with this question, it gave me a thought about the previous question, right? I mean, there is a shift. The question is in what direction, right? When you talk about, if I could quickly just touch on that censorship you mentioned, that you have more and more artists that are self-censoring to survive. You get me? And because funding is one thing, cutting funding for an artistic work or whatever, it's one thing. Yes, it could cause a hindrance, but like Siddique was saying, I'm sure they found more creative ways to get around, to get maybe some extra funding from outside and to still be able to carry on with what they wanted to do or needed to do. But the issue is when you now have those powerful tools, right, that make it difficult for you. And then, in fact, it shoots back to the first question, right, whereby you have, people who are persecuted, artists who are harassed, who, are targeted, who have to go into exile, have to deal with a new culture and all of that stuff. And so, yes, there is a shift. The question is in what direction? And the people who tend to kind of stand firm, right, are usually the marginalized creators, right? I'm talking LGBTQ plus, I'm talking immigrants, right? I'm talking Black people. I'm talking the politically engaged are typically the ones who stand firm and even move farther into being politically or socially engaged, but they're under, they're not represented by the biggest platforms, the biggest labels. And so their visibility is very low. And so they kind of like go back and embrace their own personal platforms. But even though it's not as big or as influential, but they go back and they kind of have this renewed urgency to do so because they're feeling the direct impacts of everything that has happened. So for me personally, yeah, I felt more determined to even be more myself, right? With the work I had released recently was it had no political or social conversation in there, but the fact that as a gay person and representing that in my video was the protest. Because where I come from, it is 14 years in jail, so no, and all of that stuff. So yeah, I personally have felt more engaged and I'm finding more creative ways to protest, right? Because as we see, because like I said, these big platforms don't necessarily engage marginalized creators or creators who don't really sell what they want to hear, right? And so what you have to do is start finding creative ways to give them what they want to hear if it's like a fun type of stuff while also passing the message at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to add to that a little bit. I think uh, my example also is like very similar to what Switch was talking about. When we were performing in Afghanistan as the band Kabul Dreams, rock music in Afghanistan was something completely new, you know. So like really and a lot of people will ask me like, what is the message of the songs that you have, you know? And I used to say it really doesn't matter at this point as like whether the messaging of the songs are like a direct political message or you know, like there's something of kind of a radical political message embedded in those songs. But the fact that we are playing rock music in Kabul, Afghanistan itself was a huge thing. And it was a protest in so many, and it was like it was in itself a political message that, you know, there's like we have the independence to play whatever type of music we like. We are not necessarily against our traditions. In fact, we take inspirations from our own tradition, and we always do. We still do. It's part of us. We can't separate that. But at the same time, uh, like nobody had. I mean, I remember like in the beginning when we had some songs released, some of the radio stations that we went to, they refused to play our songs because they said this does not fit any of our programming. And eventually, after years of like working through it, some of them were inviting us to their shows and everything. So, my point being that the message that's given, like staying true to the art, like is not always about what is the context of the message. It's more very specific to the situation, for example. Right? So you could be just performing a very simple song and it could still portray a very important and significant message.
Anyone else wants to chime in? Nope. We're moving on. Also wanted to invite again our audience to post their question on the Q&A chat box. Sorry. I will move shortly to your questions. So I think that one of the questions I have is like when faced with an almost constant onslaught of challenges to artistic freedom and fundamental right, it can be very hard for artists and groups, and you really kind of pointed out marginalized groups and underrepresented groups that support them to think like kind of beyond putting out fires and kind of build long-term strategy to counteract our current reality. So from kind of your experiences in your home countries and what you have lived through, and with everything happening in you know, like host country of or the place that you have seek kind of a safe haven, what do you feel are the most kind of effective strategies that, you have used, yourself at home, and in kind of uplifting artistic cultural rights and artistic freedom, and really kind of safeguarding the right of artists?
I think kind of going back to what Switch was saying, that it almost feels like the more limitations you have, or the more encouraged you are to censor yourself or to like be wary of what you're sharing. For, I mean, obviously for Switch, like you said, and for me personally as well, the more I get that, the more keen I am to go against that and actually just do it. I think the most encouraging thing you can do as an artist is to not censor yourself and is to push back against those limitations, because it gives other artists the permission to do the same. It's like the more yourself you are, the more other people feel safe to be themselves. So I think that's how you normalize expression. That's how you normalize and make it okay to be honest and be truthful. And that's why, we're always telling people to speak up, and why we try to do it ourselves is because we know that if we do it, other people will feel like, okay, this is actually like cool. The consequences don't look as bad as I thought they would be. And they feel encouraged to do the same. That's my strategy, personally.
I think the people, I think that the knowledge live in the facts. And sometimes we have beautiful lyrics, we have beautiful words. It's inspiration for a lot of people. But in the fact, if we organize places for free expression, and we have correct people in the correct place, some people make songs or paints or that, but some people have a, a knowledge of push for make festivals, for organize a lot of people. So for me, when the good people is in the good places, and in these places can make something like a festival or meeting like this, or some institution for exchange between artists. I think the strategy I follow my life is the knowledge is in the facts, because sometimes I make beautiful songs. I may it's good, it's inspiration, but if we don't do anything, organize or something in our facts, I think it's just like a beautiful paint or beautiful song. Uh, I think it's good, but I think it's not enough. I need we be a part of a movement. This is my strategy for for. But I think we need to have a character. We need to have a character, because in my country, it's like in Afghanistan or other countries. Sometimes we don't want to make protest music, just we make something weird and new, and we have a serious problem with the security of the state and with the system. And sometimes we don't want to be politicians or leaders, but the situation put us in that places. So and we need a character. We need, okay, I am peaceful man, I am peaceful guy, I love meditation, I love, but you are a fucking motherfucker and don't touch my people, and we need to fight and make something. So I feel I'm more safe, and it's my strategy when we have facts, when I am part of a movement, or when I am a part of the people, and these people want freedom and have a character for fight against that.
If I may chime in, that was David, you cracked me up right there. But just shout out to artists at risk. This is one of the strategies, because meeting Siddique, Nadine, David, if I said that right, it just shows that, hey, look, I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only person that's faced this, because it can feel very isolating when you go through. I'm on exile right now, so it's such like a solemn, isolating experience. So organizations like yours that support people like me and us on here, it's very, very important. I think that's a great strategy. And then talking about funding, I just going back to when Siddique pointed out that funding is that we have to be intentional in seeking support elsewhere, right? And not rely on like organizations or entities that will buckle under political pressure, right? Because we see examples across this country where there's certain organizations that have buckled because of pressure, right? And so if we're stuck with people like that, then the people like us who, like Nadine was saying earlier, we tend to even do more of the thing that's getting us in trouble, right? So people like us will be thrown out. So we have to be intentional about where we seek funding and who or what type of platform or organization we're seeking funding for. And then I think, we have to start talking like a legal perspective here where, I don't know, again, if it's through maybe organizations like yours, Julie, or not, but, just getting legal help. You know what I mean? People who can help us, like when we're trying to argue, our case. For example, we're in a different country. Things are different for us. I can't think artistically because I'm still trying to figure out when am I going to get some documentation that allows me to go there or that allows me to sit here. So I think those things might help. I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add something based on what Switch was saying. Switch, you mentioned um, the importance of maintaining a network and kind of spreading the network. I think, Julie, you understand the significance of this because your organization is literally Artists at Risk Connection, right? So that's what you do. I think I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for all of us at this point of time where we are and across the world to kind of spread our wings across with and connect with as many artists as we can who are like-minded. And thanks to Julie and her organization, ARC, that we're able to like meet each other here. This is like a great start, I think, but we should do more of this. And again, I can't stress enough on the importance of networking with other artists across the globe. I personally can give you a living example of how it has worked for me. When I left Afghanistan, all my artist friends also left. So everybody ended up where they could. So I have friends who are in France, who are in Australia, who are in India, who are in Pakistan, in Iran, you know. But what I ended up doing myself and what kind of, and at the time when I was going through immigration myself, coming to the US, settling here, somehow I try to maintain my connections with my friends who are artists and kind of even did some projects together. I mean, in today's world, you don't have to be in the same room to make music together. You can still do it. And so I do that. I produce music for a friend of mine who is in Australia. I work with people all over the world, basically, who are my musician friends. So my point being is there's an opportunity for us to work with other artists and it's always like together we're more powerful than on our own. So I just wanted to just stress on the importance of networking and kind of collaborating with each other and um, forming more connection as much as we can.
Thank you so much. I want to be mindful of the time, but Dave, David, do you want to chime in, or let me know? Just because we have a couple of more minutes, so I want just to make sure we get. But please tell us.
Well, right now, I am in the middle of a self-healing process. My last year in Cuba was a toxic for anyone. I was full with anger, hate, and resentment. My art went from being a search for inner peace and self-liberation to a full frontal attack. So now I am in vacation. I live in a place where the police don't stop me without reason, where I don't live in fear. I fear for my family. I live in a place where I've just created an open mic space where artists gather freely to find strategies for development and solidarity. In Cuba was a dream. Here is a reality. Maybe because I live so many years facing a dictatorship and a constant risk, I can only see opportunities here. Here, I don't feel like that the wall of me limiting my range of action or reach. The only chance I face is healing the traumas of my community, who like me come from that island quite broken. I'm just I want to say thank you because uh, uh, thank you for our artists at risk. Thank you, Penn International. Thank you for everybody, for New York, for this opportunity for Connect. I have very good connection with the artistic community in Cuba, which focused his art on freedom. In the time I've been outside, I've already been able to establish a new recording studios in Cuba. I help many artists to create new production on the island, and that's been with my status like newcomer. I can imagine the endless possibilities that will appear when I spend more time away from Cuba and connect with people with you, uh, creating these opportunities. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you, David, for your kind words. I think that's kind of the power of, as Switch you say very well, you're not alone. We're all here together, and that's kind of the power of this type of, discussion and platform where we can really learn from each other, make some connection. And yes, Artists at Risk Connection is all about this. This is what we do. We really try to find assistance when artists are really like in situation of emergency and very repressive environments, but also, like try to find some pathway for the artists that have left their country and have to restart everything. And, I think Switch, you say it very well, where that please, like, let's have my paperwork figure out, and then I can, really concentrate on my work, because this is like this kind of cloud in the back of my head make me like a bit paralyzed, and for good reason. And yes, that's also our job with the organization to connect artists even when they are not in situation of crisis anymore to legal immigration assistance, because we know that we need to build resilience. We need to be able to really kind of foster the collaboration across sectors, and that is, I think, key right now, is like finding ways to not, talk to only each other and press the acquire, but also being, like across political spectrum and across sectors, and not working on silo. And it's easy to say, it's much more difficult to do, I have to say. But I think this discussion is a testimony of, the power of we all yield when we are together. So I wanted to as kind of a closing remark and closing moment, I just wanted you to be able to share with our audience, and thank you also to our audience member for your comment on the chat, for your question. We're really appreciative of your engagement. I wanted to just give you a last word where you can tell us maybe on what you're working on currently, and like what is the project that animates you, if you can share. And again, I want to thank you really, really from the bottom of my heart to share your perspective with us. So who wants to tell us on
I
Siddique?
can go first. As I mentioned before, I kind of wear many hats when it comes to music. With my band, we're working on a small album of all songs in Farsi in our language. So that's coming up soon in a few months. Um, we always try to continue to work on more songs, but it's been a little bit difficult since everyone in the US has to have jobs and all kind of stuff, and so it's been challenging. Like any immigrant will tell you that. So we're experiencing that firsthand. But at the same time, I've been learning the Afghan traditional instrument rubab, which is I can actually show you. It's this instrument. And so I've been working on this and just trying to prepare some music recordings of the rubab as well. Just combining the traditional stuff with some Western influences. So that's also coming up. Hopefully this year. I'm trying. Doing a record is very hard, so I'm trying. But yeah, that's I'm working on, and my
Very cool.
inspirations are all over like
The internet, yeah. If you
yeah,
want to put your social, Siddique, and all of you, feel free. Thank you.
will do. Thank you.
Hell, I'll just go for it. Guys, like I mean, I'm looking at three. Julie, you're remarkable, but I'm looking at three, like clearly I can tell, right? I did do a little search on you, David, actually, but we can actually do network and collaborate. I mean, just imagine from where we all come from is so different. I'm from Africa, and David, I think you're from Cuba, right?
Yeah.
And I want to get it wrong. You did say earlier. Can you please remind me where you're from, Nadine? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was like, who? I'm from Sudan. Sorry, I'm from Sudan originally. I'm Sudanese, Egyptian, Iranian, but I identify most closely with Sudan, and that's home. And I'm based in New York.
Awesome. And Siddique, of course, Afghanistan, right? So just imagine what we could come up with, like the merging of culture. We're talking about culture not too long ago, sharing our stories, but just creatively, you just don't know what that could do. You know what I mean? And of course, Julie would obviously come to you for, how do we get this done, or who can you connect us with to get this done? But I think it'll be powerful because we kind of like share some, like our stories are similar in a way. Of course, some people maybe lost more than others, but I think generally it's pretty much the same, and it means so much to each of us individually. It's a huge loss for each of us individually. Like, so just want to say that, not to compare, but I think we could do that, right? And it could also be a good way to set the example of what we always come to these types of webinars or conferences to talk about. I think last week I was saying that personally, I'm tired of talking, to be honest. I just want to create. And I think with all of us coming together, there'll probably be more motivation for people to jump on board and be like, all right, we'll support this thing and see what happens. I don't know.
I'm down. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Do it. Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Right. I mean, you showed that. What did you call that stuff again?
It's a rubab. It's an
uh,
Afghan instrument, national instrument of Afghanistan. Yeah.
Can you play for like just 5 seconds, or if Julie would allow, because I'm trying to picture what it sounds like. Just bringing cultures, and let's say we bring the gong gong. Gong gong is it's like a traditional like Yoruba instrument from Nigeria that you play like that. So just imagine these sounds coming together. My head's like.
So let me do the curator here because I'm also Mike, I would love Siddique you to play if you're up to. I don't want to put in your spot.
I will have to go get my pick from the other room, but I can for
So,
a few seconds.
so
Yeah,
I,
you can.
I think
keep
we
talking.
I
should,
am in
I think
the
it's the
nearest
perfect,
also.
it's
Just
a
you need to send
perfect,
me a few files and I'm ready.
yeah, it's a perfect way to really close. But before we have Siddique playing Ruba, Nadine, do you want, and David, do you want to say what you're working on very briefly? And then Siddique, we will close the event with your beautiful music.
Okay, sounds good.
So,
Amazing. Yeah, I can really quickly. First of all, yes, so down. Artist at Risk collaboration compilation album when? Sign me up. I'm ready. Let's freaking do it. Um, that's cool. Yeah, I'm also working on a couple of projects. I have this EP that I'm gonna be rolling out for the remainder of this year called Love as a Gun, and it's just like exploring, relationships from like a toxic context. Who are we? What mask do we put on? To the world and to people we claim to care about, and so it's just kind of like an exploration of relationships from that context. And then I'm also working on an album after that, which is going to be like very neo soul hip hop, exploring self-actualization. So yeah, that's in the works right now.
thanks, David. Do you want to say in a few words on what
I
you're
am
working on?
vacations.
Okay, that's good.
Vacations.
You,
I want to cure. I want to cure my own self.
okay.
Yeah, my last 3 years was crazy. Now I am in vacation. I am curing myself.
Yeah.
I'm making a mix and mastering for other musicians, and I am making music for other musicians. My own art. Now I make paintings, and I am painting right now. But I am in vacation. I need to relax myself. I need to reborn again and begin a new messages and connect again with the lyrics.
Period.
Fantastic. And then David released a prolific album last year, so that's also why you need a vacation probably. Exactly. So again, thank you so much. Thank you to the four of you for sharing and being so open and have this lovely discussion. I think you were really really graceful in bringing your perspectives and insight. And thank you again for the New York City Media and Entertainment group to having, to making this happen under the New York Music Month Festival. And again, thank you so much also Siddique for Siddique for the Rubas piece that you will play and close our event. Thanks again.